All right, let's dive into this absolutely wild story from the ancient Puranas. It's a myth that tries to explain, get this, the very birth of civilization. And it all kicks off with a king who goes completely, and I mean completely, off the rails. This is a story about power, chaos, and a solution that is, well, it's just bizarre.
I mean, really think about it. What actually happens when a ruler gets so much power that he decides he's not just in charge of the laws of man, but the laws of the cosmos too? And just when you think you know where this is going, it takes a turn into the truly strange. What if the solution to all this tyranny wasn't a battle or an uprising, but a miraculous, almost unbelievable act performed on his own corpse?
Okay, so first up, let's meet our antagonist. This is the story of King Vena, a guy whose reign pretty much plunged the world into an age of oppression and sacrilege.
Now, the texts tell us that Vena's corruption wasn't exactly all his own fault. From the moment he was born, he had this evil influence from his maternal grandfather, Prithu, that just twisted his mind and turned him against the natural order of everything. And Vena's tyranny was incredibly specific. You see, he didn't just want political power. He wanted to replace the gods. He decreed that all religious rites had to stop. No more sacrifices, no more reading the Vedas. From now on, all worship was to be directed to him and only him, a direct challenge to the cosmic balance.
So, the sages, the wise ones, they pleaded with Vena to get back on the righteous path, but of course, he refused. So they took matters into their own hands, and they killed him. Problem solved, right? Nope. In killing the tyrant, they created a brand new crisis, a world without a ruler, descending fast into total chaos.
With the entire kingdom just falling apart, the sages came up with a plan so outlandish it could only come from a myth. They decided they needed to create a new king, from the body of the old one.
You heard that right. To stop the world from collapsing into anarchy, they performed a ritual. They started churning and kneading the limbs of the dead King Vena, hoping to literally pull a successor out of his flesh.
And this whole scene really gets to the core idea of the story, which is duality. Everything good and everything evil that made Vena who he was, it was all contained right there in his body, with this really clear line drawn between his left side and his right.
So first, the sages went to work on Vena's left arm, and out of it emerged the short, dark, ugly dwarf. The sages told him nishada, which means sit, and in that single moment, all the sin and evil from Vena's body was transferred into this new being. He became known as Nishada, the ancestor of hunters and fishermen. With the body now totally purified of all that evil, the sages moved to the right arm, and from it, a radiant king emerged, fully grown, already wearing invincible armor and holding a divine bow. His name was Prithu, and he blazed like the sun, literally born to be the world's protector. So, Prithu is crowned king, but he inherits a world that is right on the brink of collapse. His first great challenge isn't some rival army or anything like that. It's starvation. Under Vena's chaotic rule, the earth had just become barren. His subjects had no way to grow food. They had no trades, no means of survival at all. The entire world was starving, and it was now Prithu's job to fix it. Prithu decided he was going to literally force the earth to provide for his people. But the earth, personified as a goddess, was terrified of his aggressive power, so she transformed herself into a cow and tried to escape him. And this kicked off an epic chase. Prithu was furious that she refused to help, so he pursued this earth cow relentlessly across every corner of existence. His bow was drawn, and he was fully prepared to kill her to get what his people needed. Finally, with absolutely nowhere left to run, the earth cow surrenders, but she offers a different path. She says, "Don't use violence, use cultivation." She told him that if he treated her not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a cow to be milked, she would give him everything he could ever need. And this was the big turning point. The choice Prithu made right here wouldn't just end a famine, it would lay the very foundations for human society as we know it. And he did exactly what she said. By milking the earth cow, he received the seeds for all the food grains. Then, with his powerful bow, he leveled the rugged, uneven terrain, creating fertile plains. This is where people built the very first villages and cities. This is where agriculture was born. It was literally the dawn of civilization.
And to recognize his role as her steward and her protector, the Earth actually took his name. So to this day, one of the Sanskrit names for our planet is Prithvi, forever linking the world to the king who first learned how to care for it.
But the story doesn't just end there with a simple victory. The Puranas love to add another layer, a sort of cautionary tale. Generations down the line, Prithu's own descendants would face a totally different kind of test, one that really makes you question the nature of a ruler's duty.
So the legacy of this great king continues for generations, and it eventually leads to his great-grandson's 10 brothers known as the Prachetas.
Now the Prachetas were supposed to rule the world, just like their famous ancestor Prithu, but they chose a different path. They chose personal enlightenment over their public duty, vowing to meditate under the ocean for 10,000 years, completely abandoning their kingdom. And for those 10,000 years, the world suffered. Without any rulers, the earth just grew wild, becoming this dense, impenetrable forest. When the Prachetas finally came up from their meditation and saw the chaos their neglect had caused, they were filled with a terrible rage, and from their mouths came a fire that burned the world's forests straight to the ground.
Their fiery wrath was only stopped when Soma, the god of the trees, had to step in. And this leaves us with such a powerful contrast, doesn't it? You have Prithu, the ideal king, who saved the world through action and engagement. Then you have his descendants who, in their search for inner peace, brought about destruction through neglect. This ancient story doesn't give us an easy answer, but it forces us to ask, what really is the right balance between our duty to the world and our duty to ourselves?